The Antichrist Identified. Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Gary, and this is your Shepherd's Leadership Insight of the day. A context for the Antichrist. Well, when we dive into this, we come to understand that Antichrist, it is a figure empowered by Satan who functions as an enemy of Jesus Christ and the church. In the context of apocalyptic literature, this figure performs false miracles, deceives many in order to discourage people from worshiping the true God, and persecutes God's people. The term Antichrist could mean either against Christ or in place of Christ, while the actual term Antichrist, which originates in the New Testament, appears infrequently in Scripture. The concept of the Antichrist appears numerous times in the New Testament. Because the broader concept appears more often than the specific term, multiple perspectives have been presented on Antichrist, leading to an understanding that the better phrase used to discuss this issue may be eschatological antagonist, or in other words, end times antagonist. Well, when we look at the scripture and the Bible, there are several areas that we want to look at and just kind of get a snapshot of what the Bible generally is saying when this term is used. The term Antichrist appears in scripture 4 times solely in the Johannine corpus. 1st and 2nd John combat heresies and discusses the preservation of true doctrine. The letters indicate a heresy was spreading throughout the community, which denied Jesus is the Christ and his coming in the flesh. The first time John uses the term, he reminds his readers that they have heard about an Antichrist coming. This reveals that teaching concerning this figure precedes John's use of the term. He uses the term in his letters to describe those who oppose these central doctrines concerning the person of Jesus Christ. For John, those who had received the truth yet teach false doctrine concerning Jesus are antichrists. Well, when you look into the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, the synoptic gospels present the concept of Antichrist in a discourse by Jesus, in which he warns his disciples concerning things which are to come. All 3 of these Gospels provide warnings against following those who come proclaiming to be Christ. Mark notes the rise of a false Christs and false prophets who possess the power to perform signs and wonders in order to deceive people and legitimate their claims as a messianic figure. The description of these false Christs parallels the description appearing in the Pauline text, indicating that the term false Christ functions as an equivalent term to Antichrist. Well, when we look into the Pauline epistles, 2 Thessalonians provides the earliest written New Testament statements concerning the Antichrist concept. Paul combines 2 Antichrist traditions, the political and the religious. He writes to the Thessalonians to correct their misunderstanding that the day of the Lord has already occurred, explaining that specific events must occur prior to the day of the Lord, namely rebellion and the revelation of the eschatological antagonist. Paul refers to give the figure as the man of lawlessness. the son of destruction. So this is an important idea of what Paul calls this person, the Antichrist. Paul connects the revealing of this figure to his leading of a coming rebellion. He then notes this figure's actions, stating he will proclaim himself as God and desire to be worshipped. Like the false Christ and prophets mentioned in Matthew and Mark, this one will display his power by signs and wonders in order to deceive people. Paul also notes that Jesus himself will destroy the antagonist. Well, when we look into Revelation, the canonical work receiving the most treatment concerning the topic of Antichrist is Revelation. Unlike other New Testament writings, this work does not utilize a human as its Antichrist image. It uses two beasts. First of all, a beast from the sea, which presents the political Antichrist tradition. It wears 10 crowns and receives the dragon's power, throne, and authority. Secondly, a beast from the land, which represents the religious Antichrist tradition. It exercises the authority of the first beast, and like those of whom Jesus spoke, uses the power to perform signs and deceive the people, directing them to worship the first beast. John later refers to the second beast as the false prophet, a reference which echoes Jesus' statements in the Synoptic Gospels and John's statement in 1 John. This label also recalls Deuteronomy chapter 13, where God provides instruction concerning false prophets. As with Paul's writings, John also notes the ultimate destruction of both beasts. They are captured and cast into the lake of fire. Well, in our next episode, we will continue to set the context of the Antichrist outside the New Testament. In this particular shortcast, we've looked at various synoptic gospels, John's writings, Revelation's writings, Pauline literature, to kind of get a feel of what does the Bible say about an Antichrist, or the spirit of an Antichrist. But in the next and coming episodes, we'll look at Antichrist outside of the New Testament. This will give us more of a rounded understanding of the term Antichrist and its function in the end times narrative. Well, thank you so much for giving me a few moments of your time as we go on this important discussion of what does the Bible have to say about the Antichrist and his identification. Until we can meet again, we bid you Godspeed. Bye for now.